Hello and welcome to the second episode of Recommendation Leapfrog, which is sort of my spin on the if you like this, you'll like this recommendation genre? Let's go with that. I have one of these up already. I think it came out in March, so it's been a long time since I did this because I kind of shot myself in the foot with that first one by recommending 6 books over 6 genres. 6 is a lot. I had a lot of 3 chunks, but I could never make those 3 fit with another 3. So it's been a while of just reading enough of a variety of genres and finding enough things that I like that I can now bring you another 6 books to recommend. The way that Recommendation Leapfrog works is I will recommend you a book based on the previous book, and then that book will lead into another recommendation. It will make sense, and if it doesn't, there's a whole other one of these that you can be confused by too. Let's start with our first genre, which is romance. I am recommending The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. I have read 3 Christina Laurens at this point, and this is undoubtedly my favorite. This is the story about River, I know is the boy's name, and a lady, and they are matched due to a DNA matchmaking service. He is the founder of the company, and they have to sort of fake date for a while to make sure that the company gets good publicity out of this. And it's a super sweet story. All of the characters are really well fleshed out in a way that is better from a lot of the romance I read, and a lot of family stuff, which I didn't hate in this. It was just really well done. Christina Laurens are very safe. They're very standard for the genre and sort of popcorn books, but every once in a while that's what you want. Now, if you liked The Soulmate Equation because of the DNA dating aspect of it, might I recommend a thriller, The One by Jean Mars. This is literally the same thing. I wrote in my review of The Soulmate Equation while I was reading it, is this just propaganda for Jean Mars's The One? Because it's the same thing, but in a thriller format now. This is about a company that develops DNA matchmaking, and it follows 6 POVs about how they handle it. Some of them are existing couples who take the test to test out their relationship. One of them is the founder of the company. One of them is a literal serial killer. And it's great. Jean Mars does this sort of format super well. Really short chapters, lots of POVs. They intersect not very much. I'm thinking of The Passengers, his other books. Those all focus on the same one event. These ones are just sort of sometimes they'll hear about other people. It's almost like short stories that were spliced together, but in a good way. It is definitely a thriller. There's some good twists in it, though I would say it's a lot more tame, though one of the POVs is a literal serial killer, so what do I know? Now, if you liked The One more for the medical side of it, the founder's perspective especially about running the business and how the science works, let me recommend to you a nonfiction book, Bad Blood by John Carreyrou. This is the story of Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos, which was a blood pricking software that in one prick it could detect 100 diseases, and about how Elizabeth Holmes marketed the technology and was it all a scam? It's subtitled something like Lies and Deception in the Silicon Valley, so you get an interesting intersection too of medical stuff and techie stuff, and the whole startup culture is very much what this is about. And also sort of an investigative journalism piece, because this is someone going through and interviewing people who used to work at Theranos and what their experience was like, because I think it's still ongoing. Or was recently. What do I know? You should just read about it. Ready for my most tenuous link between these? If you enjoyed Bad Blood because of the con aspect and everything that goes into creating the illusion of a business that isn't really what it seems to be, let me recommend The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. This, I know, it's a stretch, but hear me out. This is about a group who are pulling off a heist, basically. There's a couple of mini heists in there. It's super, super fun. This is probably going to end up being one of my favorite books of the year. It's set in 1800s, 1900s Paris, and there's some French woven in with it. Highly recommend doing the audiobook and the physical book at the same time, because when they speak French, you want to hear the French, but you also want to be able to look at it to sort of get an idea of what they're saying. Maybe that's why I love it so much. It was just an immersive experience, but I cannot recommend this one enough. For reasons that you will see in a moment, we can consider this book either historical fiction or fantasy. Really, it works either way for me. Magic is definitely a big part of it, but setting is something that I really enjoy in books, so maybe I would lean more historical fiction. Who knows? Now, if you enjoyed The Gilded Wolves because of its rich people drama and also the multi-POV nature, might I recommend Anna K by Jenny Lee. I've pitched this 1,000 times. It is a modern day Korean American retelling of Anna Karenina, and it's perfect. It's multi-POV. It's got so much rich people drama in it that I really loved. It's just very Gossip Girl-esque. I know everything's Gossip Girl-esque, but this truly is Gossip Girl-esque. This is just following a bunch of rich kids doing a bunch of rich kid shenanigans. Why did I love it so much? I couldn't really tell you, but it's really interesting too to see the adaptation of this from the original Anna Karenina, how they twist things to make them modern or younger. It's really well done and I highly recommend it. Oh, also we're counting this as contemporary. I haven't had a contemporary, right? No. So if you enjoyed Anna K because of it's a retelling of a classic, and if you enjoyed it because of its star-crossed lovers plot, might I recommend The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I hope now you can see why I had trouble with Gilded Wolves counting as historical fiction and fantasy, because this is exactly the same. Like, it feels like historical fiction, but it is a modern day retelling of a myth, which is inherently fantasy, and like there are mermaids and stuff in here. Is she a mermaid? I don't think so. But it is definitely about star-crossed lovers, Achilles and Patroclus, as they grow up together and have life adventures. This is filled with interesting settings and political machinations, and considering on how do you do the right thing, how do you even know what the right thing is. There's that one side character near the end who I absolutely love. Chiron? It's not Chiron, but I do love Chiron. Briseis. I love her. I love her so much. The side characters in this really make it, and if you want a retelling that's in a much more accessible format, this is what you want, or Anna K. But hopefully now you can see the leapfrog nature, as Song of Achilles doesn't really have anything to do with the soulmate equation. How can I make these work? I guess star-crossed lovers, again, but not really. Star-crossed by science doesn't really have the same ring to it. If you can find a link, let me know, but I think I did pretty okay this round. Thank you for joining me for Recommendation Leapfrog. I hope that you got something out of this, or if you have a recommendation based on my recommendations, we could just keep leapfrogging in the comments. That would be so cool. I hope that you enjoyed. Hopefully I'll have one up sooner than the 8 months that it took me to come up with this one, but no promises. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.